Welcome, traveler. Get ready to level up in fantasy football. Join Mike and Evan and a special guest every week as we break down some of the most important topics in fantasy football, the NFL, and help you win dynasty championships. Let's get into it.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back into another divisional episode of the RPG podcast here. Tonight, we will be talking about the NFC South, and I am joined, thankfully, Mike is back in the building. So, Olivia, thank you for giving him a little reprieve here. Really appreciate that.
Shout out to Olivia upstairs holding down the fort. Although I do have my phone on, and if something goes wrong, I will be leaving at a moment's notice.
All right. Well, that's fair. Hey, when baby calls, the baby calls.
Yep.
And then we also got David on tonight. David, feel free to introduce yourself to the fans.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Latham, managing editor over at Last Word on NFL. Work with Mike there. Great to be back.
All right. Well, awesome. Appreciate it. All right. So, as you know, having already been a guest on the show here, we like to start off with a little fun cold open here. So the question, we're going to start with you, David, as the guest. What is your go-to car music type?
Usually I just listen to CDs. I'm up in Maine, so my music choices on the radio are basically limited to country or gospel, or like one channel that plays more or less exclusively Phil Collins, who, great artists need a bit more than just coming in the air tonight like every 15 minutes, So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Usually it's CDs.
A CD man. Wow. All right. That's going a little old school there. I still remember my Dodge Durango, the first car that I had. It had a six slots in the back that you could put the CDs in, and you could just tell it to switch between them. Oh man, the thing was great. Absolutely. All right, Mike, we're gonna pass it over to you. What do you got?
Obviously, I listen to podcasts and the Fantasy Football RPG podcast, but when I'm not listening to your beautiful voice, I listen to a lot of pop punk. It wasn't just a phase, Mom, all right? So like Sublime, Blink-182, Machine Gun Kelly made his little debut, and it was a pretty fun time, so I like to dip my toes into that a little bit.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Appreciate hearing that, Mike, and glad to see you still got a little punk in you.
It's not just a phase.
Yeah, so mine's usually country. Definitely appreciate the early 2000s. Looking into the 2010 era of country, a little bit of Carrie, a little bit of Brad, a little bit of Keith. So yeah, definitely enjoy jamming out to that in the car on long drives. All right, so what everybody's here for tonight, actually, fantasy football. So we're going to get in.
And now it's time for news and notes.
The news and notes section, which might beat me to the punch here. All right, so we had Alvin Kamara on the last day of OTAs, just kind of walking off the field, and it's said to be about some contract dispute. Mike, any concern over Alvin playing this season a full slate?
Playing a full slate this season, no. I think what he's in dispute about right now is that it's basically not guaranteed for next year. Like, there's a couple of potential outs that they could get away from him. If I were him, this is his last time that he has a little bit of leeway. So, like, he's going to hold on to it. He's going to say, this team needs me. Give me an extension. I don't know if it's going to work because is he 28 or 29 right now? He's basically a billion years old in running back years. It's difficult for him to get a contract like Christian McCaffrey just did, which is probably what his agent's looking at. Like, CMC just got $1 billion. I would like half of that, and unfortunately he didn't. Pete, you amazing human being, thanks for listening. That is all. Yeah, any concerns for Alvin Kamara for you?
No, none for me. The new look offense, we'll get into a little bit of it tonight. Definitely excited for that. Looking forward to seeing what they can do in a dome. And also, people think Derek Carr is really bad at football. Well, he's not as bad as people think. All right. Moving on to continuing to the Saints news here. Jawan Johnson having a foot injury, expected to miss a significant amount of time. Mike Williams expected to be back for the preseason games, which is pretty big because obviously Aaron Rodgers needs as many targets as he can have to throw the football around to. T. Higgins officially signed his franchise tag, so good. He won't be holding out for all you T. Higgins stands out there that are still holding on to him, thinking for some reason that he's worth a mid-first round pick. I don't know. But moving on with that, we got tampering charges that were investigated. So we had the Falcons and the Eagles that were going through the tampering charges and potential violations. So the Eagles got off, Eagles homer here. So I'm going to say, great job, NFL. Well done. Way to look into it and find my Eagles to have not done anything wrong. Just bringing Saquon Barkley, the Penn State alum, the golden boy of Penn State, back to Pennsylvania. Great job with that. And taking him from a division rival.
Yeah, there was zero tampering there. He signed his deal, 8 seconds after free agency opened?
Those first 7 is what really made the deal happen.
Yep. I mean, the Falcons had Kirk Cousins in the first 1 second, so I guess that's the line. They were docked a 2025 fifth-rounder, which is unfortunate because they could have gotten a free fourth-rounder. If you guys watch the HBO series where they go buy draft pick, the Bears called the Falcons and said, hey, can we move up to 8? And the Falcons were like, no, we really need to make sure we get our guy, because they were worried that the Bears were going to take Caleb Williams at 1 and then take Michael Penix at 8. Because it would be really silly if a team heavily invested in a quarterback long term and then decided to take a different one at 8. That doesn't make sense, right?
I mean, to be fair, if any team would do something weird like that, like the Bears are one of my first 5 picks.
I mean, just keep drafting quarterbacks until you hit on one. But I think that does it for news and notes. Evan, was there anything else you wanted to cover?
Nope, that's all for news and notes. And let's get into some meat and potatoes.
Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
All right. So, like I said before, we're on NFC South at this point. We're going through the NFCs. So if you're missing one, we got NFC East coming up next week. If you're looking for any of the other NFC divisions, we've already covered those. Go back through and look at the last 2 weeks. All right. So we're going to start with fantasy implications, impacts, any kind of free agent signings, any kind of draftees that we're looking at. We're going to start with the Buccaneers in this division. Former Super Bowl champ Buccaneers. But that was a completely different era. They no longer have Tom Brady. Gronk's been gone for a while now. So what did they do this offseason? They re-signed Baker Mayfield, gave him a bag. They re-signed Mike Evans, gave him a bag, Mr. 1,000-yard himself right there. They drafted Jalen McMillan from that prolific Washington offense. They drafted Bucky Irving, the jitterbug of Oregon. They brought in Sterling Shepard. Oh man, yeah, that's such a great love.
When you know, here we come.
Love that signing. And then they drafted Graham Barton, a center, which they desperately needed some offensive line help. So really appreciate that. They lost Aaron Stinney, a couple other offensive linemen, and then Devin Tompkins, their kick returner, which once again plays into how are kick returns going to work this coming season? How is it going to change the landscape of how we watch football, how it gets played, how offenses start thinking about how they're going to put together their drives? Some coaching changes with Liam Cohen come over to replace Dave Canales, who obviously took a head coaching job elsewhere. And Liam Cohen was the former University of Kentucky and former Rams offensive coordinator. So NFL ties. Mike?
I would love to hit on the Liam Cohen hire because I think the biggest deal in this offense is the OC change. Obviously, Dave Canales is a super talented coach. I'm excited to see what he does in Carolina. But Liam Cohen, he ran – I don't want people to think about the Kentucky team that was bad. He ran the Kentucky team when they were good, when Will Levis was talked about as a top 5 pick, when that offense was setting the SEC on fire. He was part of the Rams' offensive scheme when they were setting the league on fire and they were getting creative with their workload. So – we talk about these OC changes and everybody's worried about Baker like he's going to fall off of a cliff. I think that this either keeps them where they were at or maybe even elevates them a little bit. I really like his scheme. I really like what he does with getting people in motion and setting up individual matchups. I think he's going to get Mike Evans and Chris Godwin into some really exciting places. And I know that was a really long tangent, but I'm excited about Liam Cohen this year.
Yeah, no, really excited. Definitely loved what he did at Kentucky. I thought that was huge. You were able to see that. Also, everybody loves a former Rams offensive coordinator. They love the coaching tree. They love the traits that got inspired through all of that. So yeah, any thoughts, David?
So yeah, the biggest thing, well, following up on Cohen with the history with the Rams, Baker also had a hot minute there with LA back in the day too. Only half a season. The thing that really sticks out to me about that tenure is when he beat the Raiders on like 2 days with the team. Probably didn't know the names of the guys in the huddle. Basically, did the Josh Dobbs thing before Dobbs. And I like that there's like some history there. He played pretty well in that scheme. Baker's not the type of guy that will thrive regardless of your environment, but if you put the right pieces around him, he can be pretty good. And I like the odds of Cohen, maybe not like single-handedly replacing Canales with like no bumps on the road whatsoever, but I think he can do a pretty good job with Baker. And one thing that I think everyone's really looking under the radar with is Chris Godwin is supposedly going to be playing in the slot a lot more with Cohen, which is a very, very big deal to me because Godwin, he's phenomenal after the catch, really good hands, solid route runner. But the one thing that he kind of struggles with is if you have a bigger, stronger corner playing up against him, he'll struggle to like he can do it, he can get open, but not nearly as well on the outside as in the slot, where generally speaking, you're not going to run into as much press man coverage, and if you are, it's generally not as good as the outside guys. So I think that can get him back, probably not to 2019 form, but I think he's got a good season ahead of him. I love him where he's at in ADP.
Evan, I have an important question for you. I do love the Chris Godwin love, and we're going to talk about prices of Godwin, Evans, and Rashad White here in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about some of these changes. We saw Aaron Stinney, Nick Leverett, like a couple of offensive linemen that are fairly important and like key pieces of this Buccaneers offensive line. They bring in Graham Barton, who his whole thing is that he has 5-position versatility across the offensive line. Like, do you think that this offensive line is going to be able to protect Baker, or do you think that he is going to struggle a little bit with some interior pressure with the offensive line changes?
Yeah, Tristan Wirfs is one of the best left tackles in the game. Obviously, that's the outside of the offensive line. Your question specifically was on the interior. I mean, guard is a giant question mark. Cody Mock and Ben Bredesen.
Whoa. There will be no Cody Mock slander here. He is the most lovable offensive line in
Okay.
the league.
Lovable. Yes. Yes. Lovable does not mean good, though. Let's remember that, Mike. All right. So, yeah, definitely important to remember. But let's also remember the Browns did have some offensive line issues when Baker was the quarterback there. So Baker does understand how to handle the pressure, how to be able to make decisions. And hopefully, with these wide receivers that they have, with the offensive weapons that they have, they're going to be able to get the ball out of Baker's hands relatively quickly. They're going to not ask him to sit back there and just chuck the ball 50 yards downfield, just absolutely slinging it. And yes, I completely agree. Absolutely love pushing Godwin back into the slot. I think that'll help as well. He played a lot in the slot in his early years at Penn State as well. And he absolutely eats from the slot. So really excited to be able to see that happening for them. But yes, I do think interior offensive line is going to be an issue. Their tackles should be good. Graham Barton should be good. So that's 3 of the 5. Can the 3 of the 5 be able to make up for the other 2? And will they end up asking Kate Otten to block more, I guess, than expected in most situations? Those are kind of the questions that I have, which is why I'm kind of a little down on Kate Otten comparatively to most people, which his ADP is already pretty suppressed, but he's just typically somebody that I'm staying away from.
Sweet. That makes a ton of sense. Let's talk about this from a dynasty perspective first, and that'll kind of help us reframe our redraft perspective. So going through the wide receivers first, let me pull up old Mike Evans in all of his glory, 31 years old. He's currently the wide receiver 34 on Keep Trade Cut. He is 1 spot ahead of Devontae Adams and 2 spots ahead of Christian Kirk. He is slightly behind Keon Coleman and Lad McConkey. So the rookie fever has bit people like a bug. David, what would you buy Mike Evans for if you are a competing team? Would you send your own first for him?
Probably not my first, but I think like early mid second, I'd more than happily give that up. I like those two players you named there, Keon Coleman and Ladd McConkey. I think that's pretty good value. As someone who is wholeheartedly out on Coleman, I'd give him up in a heartbeat for Evans, but I like McConkey. I think it's a great fit in LA. Love the type of player he is. That'd probably be the line I'd draw, just because like you're probably like Mike Evans will be better than Ladd McConkey in 2024. Spoilers alert, but I do think the long-term value of McConkey beats out, or at least comes close to tying Evans' short-term ceiling.
Okay, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Let me go over to Godwin. I mean, he is off the page here. He is behind Christian Watson. He is down at wide receiver 42. So he's behind Christian Watson. He's behind Stephon Diggs. He's ahead of guys like A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Legette. He's ahead of Deontay Johnson, which we'll talk about him later. Like, with the news of him working in and out of the slot with his history of production, he's only 28 years old. It's not like he's going to fall off some cliff here pretty soon. Are you guys buying at wide receiver 42 prices?
Yeah, not even thinking twice about it. I didn't know, like, I knew his value was, like, lower than what I perceived it to be. I didn't know it was that lower. So once this podcast is over, I'm finding the Godwin owner and I'm buying as much of him as I can.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very comparable to a Calvin Ridley, who, if you scroll down a little bit further, you're going to see him at 47. Wide receiver 2 on a team that should have a high wide receiver 2 target share. They're going to highly use them, obviously, over the tight end in that situation, most likely over dump offs to the running back. So you're looking them as a true 2 option in the offense rather than a potential 3 as the wide receiver 2. And then going back real quick to Mike Evans, Devontae Adams right below Mike Evans in dynasty value, according to Keep Trade Cut. Mike, would you rather Mike Evans or Devontae Adams?
I would like to propose it this way. Would you rather have the person that scored more is younger and has the same quarterback, or scored less is older and has a different quarterback?
My love for Tay Adams. Yeah, my love for Tay Adams knows no bounds. So I will be taking Tay Adams regardless of what you say, Mike.
Okay. I think this is very clearly Mike Evans, but I've been wrong before.
Mr. 1,000-yard himself. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now I'm right there with you. I'm in lockstep. Amari Cooper's an interesting name that's below Chris Godwin as well. I think we saw what Coop could do in that offense. And for as bad of a situation as Watson put that offense in, Godwin prices, once again, just like Cooper prices, just like Diggs prices, have all fallen this offseason as rookie fever continues to hit. Yep. You're able to flip these rookies once again for production, these flex plays, doing it all day.
Yeah. Moving to quarterback real quick, we're just going to move through all of their prices and we'll hit some redraft stuff. Baker Mayfield, quarterback 22 on KTC right now. Look, he's 29. I get it. He's almost 30, which means that he's dead to us. But he's behind Will Levis, who I think Will Levis is a good buy right now as well. But he's also behind Bryce Young. He's almost in lockstep with Bo Nix and Michael Penix. Like, I think if I'm a competing team and I need a QB3 to just feel warm and fuzzy throughout the season, I would toss my first for Baker, because I don't think you're getting another quarterback with contract stability that keeps you that safe at the 111, 112. That means that my team is very good and I feel very comfortable in that. I think if I'm on the playoff bubble, I'm not doing that. Is that a fair evaluation of Baker, or am I too high?
I generally try. I agree with everything up until the 111, 112, but I'm generally not the type of guy that gives up those short-term win now moves just because you're always 1 or 2 bad injuries away from no longer being a win now team. So I'm kind of risk averse in that sense. But in terms of Baker, he'll get the job done if you need a QB3, low end QB2, and over some of those rookies and second-year guys, I'd pull the trigger. I like his price there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then moving to Rachaad White, he's the RB14 right now. He's 25 years old, which means that we're going to love him for another year or two. He's right in front of Josh Jacobs. He's in lockstep with a late first or a mid-26 first. Is Rachaad White's 2023 the new norm? Is that what we should be expecting? Like he's a RB1 moving forward, or that was just volumed his way there in the grossest way possible?
Yeah, it was 100% volume. That's without question in my mind. When you start looking at it, you're looking at him at 272 attempts, huge on the attempt total. You're looking at a yards per attempt 3.6, which is not very efficient, which is an issue. You look at the receiving stats, you look at 70 targets, which is a huge target share for a running back as well. Typically anything over 50 is a good receiving year. Getting 50 targets plus starts putting you in that territory of actually being a receiving threat as a running back as well, which I think we kind of knew that coming out of the draft. We knew that he was going to do that. We knew that Baker liked to dump off the ball. We knew that they were likely going to be behind because their defense was lacking. So it kind of made for a really good situation. And now you bring in Bucky Irving. So yeah, I definitely think that Rachaad is overvalued right now. But that's my take.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Basically, 2023 answered, what if the Patriots gave James White the ball 350 times in a season? Like, that's your result. It worked because they had literally nobody else. Now they have somebody else. And White, I think he can keep it up as like a good receiving back, PPR leagues. He's a decent flex play guy to get you through the bye weeks, but he's not the type of guy that I'm looking to add, especially not at RB14 price.
RB14 price is spooky because we've talked about it before, and if people haven't listened at home, go check out our 2025 rookies preview. That class is loaded at running back, and every one of these guys that's not Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson should be watching their back. So, spooky. All right, now we're going to play a little game, and we're going to do this with each team. I'm just going to pull a name. I'm going to pull up their PPR, one quarterback ADP. You tell me higher, lower, or just right. So start with the quarterback, Baker Mayfield. 169 overall, quarterback 22, higher, lower, just right, David?
I'm going to say just right. I like that price.
Okay, cool. Evan?
I think it's just right, but it could be within one or two on either side.
Okay. Running back, Rachaad White, RB15, 63 overall. Higher, lower,
too
just
high.
right? Too high. Evan?
I want to say just right because running backs right about that range is a pretty big cliff.
James Cook, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, RB16. Man, we were hot and bothered by him before. I would rather just take, and we'll talk about this in the Saints segment, Alvin Kamara at RB17 a round later. That is a smash pick for me everywhere. Cool. Chris Godwin, wide receiver 36. Higher, lower, just right?
Way too low. I'm taking him a lot earlier than that.
Heck yeah, you are. Evan?
Yeah, I think he should be higher than that.
All right. And last but not least, Mike Evans, wide receiver 16.
I'd say that's just right.
4 picks behind Devontae Adams, who, again, he scored more points than and is better than.
He's going behind Puka, though. And he's going behind Drake London and Marvin Harrison. Yeah.
In redraft, which is that's weird to me.
Puka I can understand. London, that surprises me.
No, I can understand Puka too.
Olave?
Obviously. Yeah, he's going behind Olave. That's right. Is he going behind Nico Collins? Because I know that's about the range.
He is going... Nico Collins is wide receiver 14 at 3 picks in front of him. Like it's
so that's margin of error.
They're the same player.
Yeah, he should be going higher.
Okay, cool. And then last but not least, we forgot about this from a dynasty perspective. Bucky Irving, who else is on that team? They picked McMillan. Is there any other piece on that offense that you want to invest in, or it's just a dart throw in the late third, early fourth year drafts?
No other piece.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
everything said needs to be said about the Bucs.
They consolidate all their stuff in a nice way.
Well, the tax man's here. Time to pay your tithings.
real quick, we're going to talk about ads. Go to Dubby, get some jitterless energy. Use code, is it FFRPG or RPG? FFRPG at checkout. I put the wrong thing in the description, so if you're listening, go to the description, click the link, use FFRPG. Trophy Smack, same deal. Get some sick swag for your teams, and join our Discord. It's free. Evan says good things in there. He says lots of interesting things about college football that the average fan should listen to, because Evan knows ball, like Chris said. That way we don't have to talk about ads later. We can just talk about ball the rest of the episodes. Does that sound good?
Sweet. Love it.
Sweet. Check the box. Evan, what's next?
All right, so we're going to be moving on to the Saints here. Okay, what did the Saints do this offseason? Well, we're going to start with coaching changes, because everybody's hot and bothered by Clint Kubiak replacing Pete Carmichael. I mean, seems exciting. Seems like something that's going to hopefully work for the offense. It has some excitement to it. Former Broncos, former 49ers passing game coordinator. So, we have some good offenses, some good passing trees to be able to work with off of there. Obviously, the Saints are absolutely decimated because of the cap right now. They did what they could to try and win it a couple years ago while Drew Brees was still playing, and it unfortunately didn't quite pan out exactly as they had hoped for. So now they're in the hold it together. Talisi Fuaga is a giant offensive line piece to be able to add to it. Spencer Rattler could be a potential interesting player. Cedric Wilson, Bub Means out of Pittsburgh, if I remember correctly there. And then a little bit more offensive line help in Lucas Patrick being added to them. So playing in a dome, offensive coordinator change. Anything getting you hot and bothered about this offense, Mike?
I'm going to yell. I'm going to get really mad. This Clint Kubiak love makes zero sense to me. He went to Denver, where he was in charge of the lowest touchdown % offense in the league, if not in the last 5 years. And we can be like, oh, the quarterback in the wet. It was Russell Wilson when we were all excited about him. We were excited about Russell Wilson in 2022. Clint Kubiak gets his hands on him, and then we think Russell Wilson's the worst thing that's ever happened in the NFL. Then he goes to the 49ers, gets to watch Kyle Shanahan do his job, and now he gets a shiny OC job, and we're like, oh, he's going to save Olave. No, he's not. This is stupid. I'm out on Olave. I'm out on the Saints offense other than Alvin Kamara.
Ooh, all right. Even the intended air yards that Olave is the absolute king of.
Yeah, that's great. You know what intended air yards are? You didn't catch the ball.
They're not air yards.
Because I watch it bounce off your helmet 20 yards down the field. Goofball. No, I love Chris Olave as an individual talent. I just think that they need... Hopefully, Kubiak proves me wrong. I just don't think the system that he showed in Denver makes me excited, and I think that he needed to pick up a lot of bag of tricks, which maybe he did, but he hasn't had an opportunity to show it, and... I just need him to make me excited before I get excited. I think people are giving him the benefit of the doubt because of the places he's coming from.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember the 2022 season was absolutely atrocious for Derek Carr. All right, that was with the Raiders, and that's why he was released and ended up with New Orleans. Last season, he really wasn't that bad, though. 68.4% completion percentage, 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, yards per completion 10.3, which is a little bit below his average for his career, 31 sacks, that's kind of rough, and a 5.4% sack rate, which is also kind of rough. So yeah, okay, there's some negatives there, but that offensive line was absolutely brutal. It's probably going to be brutal again. But we still have Chris Olave there. You have Raheed Shaheed, the best ball man himself right there. Just dropping that 3 for 100, 192 and 2 touchdowns type of week, just winning people best ball weeks. Absolutely love it. You still have Alvin Kamara there. So the offense has a chance.
It has a chance. First of all, thank you, Drew. Yes, Last Word on Sports should give me a raise. I don't know if I know anybody that can do that for me, but I think that the offense was fine. I don't see a way that this is going to step forward into this like top 10 offense, top 12 offense that we're expecting. This is going to be a league average offense with a league average wide receiver 1. and Rashid Shaheed is going to be a fun best ball target. It's unfortunate. I love him in Scott Fishbowl. For people that are in Scott Fishbowl, those return yards. Rashid Shaheed had more total yards, so not scrimmage yards, but total including kick and punt return than Bijan Robinson did, which is awesome. I love that. But yeah, there's not a lot of pieces of this offense that get me excited other than running back 3 in points per game, Alvin Kamara. David, do you feel differently about any of the pieces around here, or are we pretty much?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I can't remember who said it. It was someone on Twitter, so I'm just going to blatantly steal it. But they said that Derek Carr is basically the football equivalent of watching somebody mow their yard in jeans. And I think that's just the perfect comparison because it's like, yes, he can get the job done, but my God, do you want to go anywhere else with it? And Carr's one of the worst in the league against pressure, and this offensive line just looks like it's going to be an outright disaster. Like Fuaga, good player, but offensive line, historically speaking, has one of the steepest learning curves for a rookie. So you're really hoping he can pick it up right away. And if he can't, you're basically screwed because Ryan Ramczak's coming off the injury. He might not play this year. If he does play, he might not be himself. So there's a lot to not like around there. The interior offensive line also looks like it's going to get him killed. And Carr's just cannot move the pocket well, feels pressure constantly. So it's just going to be a lot of prayers to Olave and Shaheed, which some games those prayers will land, most games they won't. So Kamara just by volume alone is probably going to be worth something because Kendre Miller sure didn't look like anything last year and Jamal Williams was a disaster. But other than that, I'm probably going to be staying away from this offense a lot.
So with the offensive woes and with the fact that Chris Olave really is the main big name receiving weapon, you have a little bit of Taysom Hill that's probably going to be worked in, especially with the Juwan Johnson injury. 24% of the team targets he had last year, when you look at that and break it down, is there a chance? Because I'm looking at the guys that had 29+%. We're looking at a Hopkins, a Diggs, Pittman, Moore, Puka, Amon-Ra. We're looking at these guys that were wide receiver ones, except for Hopkins. Obviously, Diggs tailed off at the end of the season, so people were upset about that. Can Chris Olave get to 29% target share for this team?
No. Next question.
It would surprise me, yeah, because Michael Thomas isn't there anymore. He had some targets, and they didn't particularly replace him. But, if there's one thing that, years of data has shown, it's that targets are earned. So, maybe there's a 1 or 2%, variance there where there's fewer options he'll get it, but they're not going to suddenly just, target him that frequently, I don't.
He had a 25. Did we already say this? A 25.6% target share last year. A 29% target share as a rookie, which was that shows that maybe he could get there.
Right.
As they're bringing in new names, it's a new offensive coordinator that has no emotional ties to him. Everybody's going to start with a clean slate. So I think that 27% is probably. I'm working through projections now. That's probably what I'll pencil him in at.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, awesome. Moving on to the final player in this offense that is worth talking about at all, Taysom Hill. Underdog has him listed as a quarterback, which I think is hilarious. If your league has him listed as a tight end, are you taking him as your tight end too, Mike?
If you make me, okay. If he is tight end eligible, and I have a Mark Andrews, a George Kittle, someone that I feel set and forget, and then they get hurt, so I know they're going to miss a couple of games. Yes, I will take him for a 4th-round pick for free.
Yeah, in Dynasty, he's worth holding up a bench spot on a TE2 standpoint. But if we're talking redraft or something, I'm not wasting a bench spot carrying a backup.
Or a 2 tight end league, I have no desire to. I would just go get somebody else that I feel like they can randomly get a couple of targets, get a couple of touchdowns, get something like that. I think Taysom Hill, if Kamara misses time, I know it's Kendre Miller season. We're all woo, let's go. But it's probably more likely that Taysom Hill gets a weird amount of design touches. If Derek Carr misses time or has another shoulder injury, yes, there's going to be packages with Taysom Hill. He's a handcuff to 4 positions on the field. So you can take him and use him in that way. But I have, like David said, no desire.
Yeah. And like handcuff sort of implies that if one guy went down, he'd get the workload. It'd just be like, no, instead of 2 touches a game, it would now be 5. Like it's still like.
But those 5,
he finds the end zone on one of those touches because he tends to do that. But like, you're still not a guy you'd want anywhere.
He's like 2005 Jerome Bettis, where he got like 6 touches, but 5 of them were 1-yard carries for a touchdown. Like that's.
Oh, who was that? Like 2019 Jordan Howard, I think. Like 1 year, like when he was with the Dolphins, he had like 5 touches for 8 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then they cut him or something like that.
Elite. But yeah,
I need to look that up because.
But what we started to talk about it, Kendre Miller, Evan. Put him in the 2024 class. Pretend that he didn't come out in 2023. Where would he be in your running back rankings?
Not high.
Oh, you didn't like? Oh yeah, we talked about this last year. You didn't really like him that much.
Yeah, no, I wasn't a huge fan. If he would have come out, assuming the knee injury as well, coming off.
Knee injury is gone because he came out this year.
Well, sure. Okay. Yeah. But okay, whatever. Regardless, I'd probably still be putting him in 3rd round range, late 3rd.
Oh, I thought you meant RB3. I was like, yeah.
No. Late 3rd in this class with the likes of Braylon Allen.
Okay, rude. Braylon Allen's good. He just went to the worst place possible. But I get what you're saying. I see a lot of steam being like, trade the 201 for him. He's better than the RB2 in this class. I'm like, he's really not. Like, Trey Benson is better. Jonathan Brooks is better comfortably.
Blake Corum is better.
This feels like a team. Yeah, I liked Blake Corum a lot last year too, actually. I wish he'd come out in 2023. But the Saints feel like a team that's going to take a running back in 2025. And I think I can probably name 9 running backs that are better than Kendre Miller in the 2025 class.
Very much so. He is inconsequential. I do not want him. If anybody wants to give me a 3rd for him, I will happily take any 3rd this coming season to take another dart throw running back because it's just a cycling. That's all it's going to end up being. Yep. But I think that's enough Saints talk at this point.
You want to do higher, lower, and just right?
Sure. Okay.
Chris Olave, wide receiver 11. I think he's way too high, but I'm the noted Chris Olave hater.
Yeah, too high for this offense. He's I do like the targets. I just don't like them coming from Derek Carr and a Clint Kubiak offense.
Considering that most people are playing underdog fantasy football right now, which is a best ball competition, it is just right.
I guess.
Spike weeks. You got to remember the spike week. When he has a spike week, it's a top 7 week. Easily.
If you want a top 7 spike week, get George Pickens 18 wide receivers later.
Or Mike Evans.
Get Mike Evans 10 picks later, and he gives a safe floor. Whatever. Not important.
But
Derek Carr, QB 26. Higher, lower, just right.
Just right.
Objectively, just right, but on moral principle, I will never draft Derek Carr, so he's just off my board entirely. Like, if you find yourself drafting Derek Carr, call the number at the bottom of all the underdog ads. You got a problem.
Yep. I'm going to say too high because I'm just looking at the names below him. Daniel Jones, 2 years away from a QB9 season where he now gets Malik Neighbors. Hopefully he has a bounce back. J.J. McCarthy in the perfect offense. Maybe I'd rather have the mystery box than what I know Derek Carr is. The Steelers quarterbacks. Yes, they're gross. No, maybe they don't have a job this year. But when they're playing, they're doing better than Derek Carr. So I just think at that price, I won't be drafting any Derek Carr because I never want to. All right, that's Olave. Let's do Kamara, RB17. I think that's way too low. People don't like him because he's a billion years old, but he was RB3 in points per game last year. What changed?
And what does he do? He gets receptions. Receptions are king.
Yep.
Cool. I'm with you guys on this one, too. One of the biggest things you can exploit every year, especially in redraft, is people get bored of the same old name that's getting older. Fact of the matter is Kamara as good as he was in the day? Not even close. He's probably a mid-level starter at this point, but no one else is going to touch the ball because everyone else behind him is so much worse.
Heck yeah. Rashid Shaheed, baby. Wide receiver 58 in ADP right now. He was wide receiver 44 last year. What do we think?
Tua.
Too low, especially as Evan mentioned, it's best ball season, and Shaheed only needs 2 catches a game to give you a worthwhile start in underdog.
Year 3 breakout. Here comes Rashid Shaheed. And then, would anybody touch one of the tight ends in redraft with a 10-foot pole?
No.
All right. That's enough Saints talk. Evan, over to you.
All right. So, yep, Mike, we got a giveaway, right?
Yes, we do. Kyle Pitts, rookie card. Luminance. Very fancy. Thank you to everybody that has entered. If you want to enter into our next giveaways, all you have to do, like and subscribe. It's too easy. It's free. All right? Watch some episodes. Have a good time. See beautiful guests like David. Our winner is Sam Wise on Twitter. He's at Buy and Sell You. Sam, if you're listening, DM me your shipping info. If not, I'll hit you up on Twitter later. Thank you to everybody that's listening. Thank you to everybody that's entered. We will do a new one starting tomorrow.
All right. Well, fantastic. And with that, we're moving on to the exciting offense of the Falcons. Man, this is a team that had a 100% overhaul of their coaching staff. We now got Raheem Morris as the head coach. We got Zach Robinson as the offensive coordinator, and we got Jimmy Lake as the defensive coordinator. That's a full coaching change right there. Jimmy Lake, former Washington head coach, former Rams assistant head coach, all good things, former head coaching experience. We have Raheem Morris, who returns to the division where he used to be the former Buccaneers head coach as well, former Rams DC. Once again, those are buzzwords right there. Former head coach, former Rams DC, former Rams coach. Zach Robinson coming over from the Rams as the former QB coach and passing game coordinator. Once again, another buzzword for the Rams. Everybody's going goo-goo over this offense. The addition of Kirk Cousins coming off of the Achilles, I think there's a little bit of concern there. The jitterbug Rondale Moore coming in that trade with Arizona. That's a lot of fun, getting rid of Desmond Ridder, moving him over to Arizona for a useful piece in the offense. Darnell Mooney as another dart throw wide receiver, Ray McLeod to shore up the kick return game and also be a fill-in wide receiver when needed. The most questionable pick of the entire draft, Michael Penix Jr. What are the Rams doing? Well, apparently, they really wanted to have a QB succession plan after paying a bunch of money to Kirk Cousins. But when an owner gets involved in draft picks, it typically goes wrong. And once again, it most likely went wrong. Cordell Patterson leads the team, so obviously they had a kick return bubble to be able to fill, which is why they brought in Ray McLeod. Desmond Ridder, as I said, already got traded. Jonnu Smith no longer with the team as well. So Jonnu just finding a new home, no longer competing with Kyle Pitts. Our boy, love him. Way to go, Kyle Pitts. The targets are all yours, sir.
Couple of things here. One, we talk about coaching changes. These coaching changes are good. They make me happy. They make me feel warm and fuzzy. We talk about guys with a track record of success that have done well and run creative schemes. This might be a little like fairy dust that we're sprinkling on top, though, because we're all excited about Zach Robinson. Same thing that I talked about with Clint Kubiak. Like, was he actually making an impact, or was he just taking notes while Sean McVay did his thing? So we're hoping that something happens there. But if we take Kirk Cousins' career averages, not even his best, we could probably take some of his lower-end seasons and take it to the Atlanta Falcons. Kyle Pitts is getting 1,000 yards again. Like, this is a very easy plug-and-play. The quarterback play is going to rise all boats. There you go. That's the word. And it's going to make the entire situation better. So I'm excited about him. I think Kyle Pitts is a value right now, while Drake London, everybody's like, ooh, that's the guy. Is he, though? Because at the prices, he needs to be the guy, not just a guy.
Let's also remember, what did the Rams do last season? And historically, what have the Rams done? They've run one running back into the ground. Just hand him the ball, get him the ball, get him the ball, get him the ball. It's almost like they have a really high draft pick who was considered a generational talent at running back there.
Tyler Algier season, baby. Can't
Yes.
wait.
Yep,
Now,
right on the ball.
I want to say I do not think this is going to happen, but far and away the funniest thing that could happen in this upcoming year is it turns out that Arthur Smith was right and they all suck.
Ooh, that would be tough. Great question from the comments. Will the Atlanta offense be top 15 with Kirk Cousins? I say firmly yes. What do you guys think?
Top 15 in yardage, yes.
Touchdowns?
I think they're going to be somewhere right around that 15. I can comfortably say, though, yardage-wise, they'll be top 15.
Yeah, I think they'll probably be like 13 to 15. This is one of the teams I have the hardest time projecting. Just if you assume it's like, it doesn't even need to be 2023 Kirk Cousins, who was having his best season before the injury. But if you get like, your typical Kirk Cousins year where he's a top like 12-ish quarterback, I think they make it comfortably. My biggest worry is just we're just assuming he comes back and can play an inadequate level off an Achilles injury, which is a very tough thing to come back from in your late 30s. I know Cousins isn't the most mobile. He never was. So he doesn't necessarily need it as, say, like, if Lamar Jackson hit it, we'd be in real big trouble. But I still think we're a little too comfortable just assuming that it's going to be fine. And I'm not sure that it is.
Yeah, if I'm taking Kirk and I'm taking any pieces of this Atlanta offense, especially in a redraft format like Underdog here, I'm most likely expecting that I'm going to need some additional production early in the season because it's going to take a little bit for the offense to get installed, the offense to get in rhythm, Kirk to get in rhythm, Kirk to be back from the injury. All of these things are going to play to likely a slow start for Atlanta.
That checks.
Mm-hmm.
The Falcons' defense, middle of the pack, they added a little bit of beef to it, but didn't do enough that you really feel good about them taking a step forward. I would be concerned that this defense is so bad that the offense has to keep up, which is good for fantasy and good for what we're talking about on the show. But when we talk about betting odds a little bit later, we got to fly here. But it's not looking good.
Not at all, no. And I think it's going to be worse than it was last year because they didn't add all that much talent. And I think Raheem Morris is a sizable downgrade of a head coach from a defensive side of the ball, just because we've seen what he's like as a head coach. We know it's awful. He's 21-38 as a head coach. And, by and large, guys don't get better the second time. For every one Bill Belichick, you get 99 Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, he's definitely got to stay hands off. But with that, Mike, real quick, over under?
Yeah. Dynasty values, I think we feel good about all of them from a dynasty perspective. Either they're going to do well this year or we believe in the talents long term. So we don't need to hit on that too much, but let's talk about in redraft, Drake London going off as the wide receiver 9?
No.
Too high.
Absolutely not.
Wild. That is wild. Okay, yeah. Too high. We all feel good about that. Bijan RB2.
It's nitpicking. I'd go RB3 just because Breece Hall's a bit of a safer bet. Yes. But if you're drafting him RB2, I'm not going to fight you.
Yes.
Yep.
For me, it's Breece, but they're back to back in rankings, and I have no qualms there.
Mm-hmm. With a large gap to CMC.
Yep. Yeah. Kyle Pitts. This is where the money gets made. Tight end 6, and he is going 3 rounds after the tight end 1, 4 rounds after the tight end 1. So, you guys good at that price?
Give me Pitts over Kincaid. Give me Pitts over Andrews, and then I'll leave. Yeah, in redraft I'll leave Laporta, Kelsey, and McBride over him.
Yeah, tight end 6. I'm probably going to be targeting him a lot because, like Evan just said, there are better options, but they're going so early that I'm probably comfortable just, loading up at receiver early and getting a tight end more in the middle rounds.
I am addicted to drafting Kyle Pitts in best ball right now. But, all right, that's enough Saints talk. Again, shout out to Sam. Let's talk about the grossest team in the NFC South, if not the whole league.
All right, so we're going to move on to the cat team in this division, the Panthers. There's the little meme going around right now that cat teams, former number 1 overall picks, are becoming the highest paid quarterbacks. All right. So Bryce Young, oh man, maybe there's some hope. No. Garbage. All right. Moving on. Some additions this offseason. Deontay Johnson in a trade with Pittsburgh. Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, which are huge upgrades to the interior of that offensive line. Huge. Not just in size, but in need for the team because, well, they're both huge human beings. Moving on. Xavier Legette, Jonathan Brooks, Jatavion Sanders, all added in the draft, all big plays. Hopefully, you're looking at a team that is trying to do everything they can to be able to build around a young quarterback. They're trying to give him offensive playmakers to be able to do that. They lost Bozeman on the offensive line this offseason. They lost Viscus Chenault. Rip to everybody that thought that he was going to be the next Julio Jones coming out of Colorado back when that happened. Those poor souls. And then DJ Chark also moving on along with Hayden Hurst. Coaching changes. Dave Canales comes over and is now the head coach of the Panthers, former Bucs OC. So that's really interesting watching a guy go interdivisional change. And then the OC also came over from the Bucs for them. All right. Any quick thoughts on that, Mike? I know you lost Deontay Johnson, and you are incredibly sad about that.
No, we're talking about the NFC South, all right? This is rosy colors and big glasses, and everyone's excited. Deontay Johnson's a great trade for them. If you're talking about building a wide receiver room from scratch, you want an old man veteran that can move the sticks, Adam Thielen. You want a big play, big body, X-type receiver, Xavier Legette. You want an elite target earner that can separate at will, Deontay Johnson. You want depth pieces that can be a deep ball and a deep threat on the field, DJ Chark. Just kidding, he left. Jatavion Sanders. Like there's opportunities in this offense for them to actually string together drives, which is something they couldn't do before because when Adam Thielen's your only guy, it's a nightmare. So they beefed up the interior of the offensive line, protecting Bryce Young. They got a running back that's worth a damn in Jonathan Brooks, and they finally have weapons to surround him with. This is the pivotal point in Bryce Young's career because if they're still bad this year, there's no more excuses. You have somebody that just quarterback whispered his way through Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, who we all wanted to hang in the public square. But now this is Bryce Young's chance. This is his opportunity. He needs to seize it. And if he doesn't, good luck selling him for a third.
Yeah, it'll be quite interesting with Bryce Young. I personally am willing to take a chance on him for what you can buy him for right now, which seems to be a mid-second is what you're able to buy him for right now. That's what I've seen him go for in a couple leagues. So I think that is a really intriguing thought, especially listing exactly what you did. What did they do this offseason? They added players. They're keeping Thielen in the slot, which I think is huge. He is a fantastic slot receiver. Chuba is going to be able to hold down the backfield until Brooks is closer to fully healthy. And by hold down, I mean he is going to be able to take handoffs and not go backwards with the football. Like Miles Sanders was just horrific this past season. It's tough to see. Definitely tough to see. And that's all big things to be able to remember. But Bryce, just like you said, if he doesn't have a good season, he's absolutely cooked. He's absolutely done for. You're going to see the Panthers and ownership specifically start to get really antsy, start to be looking for somebody to move on to. And if they're really bad, could be really fun to see some Shedeur Sanders running around there.
Twist my arm. I'm all in. I love Shedeur. I think Carson Beck's probably the best prototypical quarterback, but some team is going to fall in love with Sanders and the fame that's going to come with it. And if it's a team that's looking to put people in seats like Carolina is, Sanders could go early next year. But, all right, let's talk about dynasty prices with this team because, real quick, anybody want to touch any of the pieces here in redraft other than maybe Deontay Johnson and Jonathan Brooks?
I'll take a Thielen weight.
Okay.
For a touchdown in best ball that he's going to fall in for.
Yeah, I'll take Thielen and best ball as a wide receiver 6, and then I'll take him as a redraft. Like, I need a flex play on a weird week. But let's talk about their dynasty prices. Bryce Young, quarterback 21, 22. So he's going a little before Baker Mayfield, but after J.J. McCarthy and Drake May. How do we feel about that?
Too high.
No, I think it's just right. I'm willing to buy in, You see what he did at Alabama, and there's got to be some kind of hope that's still there. You look at the new offense coming in. You look at actually having an interior offensive line. Did you see how many pressures he got right up the middle all of last season?
Yeah.
It was bad.
It was a rough situation last year. My worry is just he was historically inefficient, and yes, there was nothing around him. No one denies that, but quarterback is such a vital part of the offense. It's tough to put up numbers that truly god awful, crime against nature, without being pretty bad yourself. It reminds me a lot of the Josh Rosen situation where in 2018, just about everyone would have failed in that environment, but to fail that catastrophically is just a signal that you yourself are not very good at the game. I'm all the way out.
Ooh.
If the Panthers hadn't traded their first round pick to get Bryce Young would have been traded for a 4th. He'd be fighting for a backup spot. We'd be talking about him very differently.
Probably.
Or do you think they would have taken Marvin Harrison Jr.?
They would not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Not unless Tepper forced them to stick with Young for one more season. That's the only way.
Which it's Tepper we're talking about here.
I mean, yeah, that is possible, but going to it, if it's Tepper's idea, it's a bad one. So
fair enough.
All right, we've got back-to-back wide receivers. Just tell me which one you would rather have, and if they're too high or too low. Deontay Johnson and Xavier Legette, 45 and 46.
Deontay Johnson.
And too low?
Deontay Johnson's too low. Legette's too high for what he's going to do.
Yep.
There's going to be a window on Legette later in the season.
Yes.
I will agree. Not be buying it.
And then Jonathan Brooks, I gotta scroll way back up to the top. I'm deeply sorry. I'm down in the Hassan Haskins range right now. I was just looking for Chuba Hubbard. Jonathan Brooks, RB8.
Yeah, way too high.
Yeah. Oh, is that redraft or dynasty?
Dynasty.
That's dynasty.
Oh, okay. I was gonna,
even in dynasty, that's too high.
On a range there. More understandable, but still a little high for me for not really having an answer at quarterback. Sorry, Bryce Young fans.
Who's right in that range, Mike? ETN,
ETN,
Saquon, Kyron?
Behind him, Saquon. Below him's Kyron.
Okay.
Look, high draft capital, talented back. The team's committed to him. He's under 21 years old right now. He's checking a lot of boxes that if he's an RB2 this year, we're going to value him as a top 5 dynasty running back because we're stupid.
He won't be an RB2 this year.
Yeah, that would shock me. I'm willing to say, if he is, I will fully admit I'm wrong. He deserves the RB8 ranking right now, but just given the situation he's in, coming back from an injury, playing on an offense that, yes, added plenty of talent, still probably not going to be very good. You're asking a lot of him.
And he's still probably going to be splitting carries throughout the entire season.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's a path to him in 2025, and I think we're going to give him the year of leeway. If he does anything, he's going to move up. If he does nothing, he's going to stay the same.
But 25, Mike, we've already hit on this. It's running back galore.
I know.
That's so okay. When I think of Jonathan Brooks, I think of him in terms of the 25 class. When I start thinking about that, because I'm not expecting him,
5?
right?
6? Yeah.
RB4 at the highest, absolute highest, and even that I don't feel good saying.
No, that feels spooky.
So, yeah. All right. Well,
cool.
That seems like enough Panthers talk because I think I just threw up a little bit. So, moving on, we're going to do some betting lines here real quick. We got the Buccaneers right now at 8.5 wins at plus money for the over. Are you touching the Buccaneers to win 9 games?
No. Everyone in the division got better. They're now playing a first place schedule. I think if it was 7.5, I would think about it a little more, but 8.5, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, I'd probably take the under on that one too. I think they're going to be a 7-8 win team. I'm not so sure the Saints got better, but the Falcons and Panthers definitely did. Canales is gone. There's going to be a bit of an adjustment there. So.
Okay. This is going to play into a take later, but I don't think anybody in this division wins more than 9 games. So, with that being said, I would also agree Buccaneers under. All right, then we got the Saints at 7.5 wins for -120 for the over.
I want to read this schedule to you real quick. They play the Panthers, whatever. Cowboys, Eagles, Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks, Broncos, whatever. Chargers, whatever. Browns, Rams, Packers. Are you counting a lot of wins here?
The Saints or the Bucks?
The Saints.
No, that's the Saints schedule. It's an under.
I'm betting under and feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah.
They might be.
Sorry,
the
Dennis
Panthers
Allen.
twice.
It's been a great run.
R.I.P.
Okay, and then moving on to the Falcons, 7-10 last year, slated for 9.5 wins at -135 to the over. Once again, I'm taking the under. I already said it. I don't think anybody in this division wins more than 9 games.
This is one of the safest bets I've seen in my lifetime. Under.
Give me one moment. They start bad. They're going to start 0-3, maybe 1-2 if they beat the Steelers. But they play the Steelers, Eagles, Chiefs. That's a tough way to start your year if you have an immobile quarterback coming off an Achilles tear. Then they get
with a bad head coach.
Then they get a couple of divisional games, which can get them on the right path. Then they get the Seahawks, which, depending on how you feel about that, that's a winnable game. Another divisional game. Cowboys, Saints, Broncos. I think there's a run in there in the middle that they could get hot. And then they finish their season with Giants, Commanders, Panthers. Raiders, Giants, Commanders, Panthers. I'm going over.
You think that's a 10-win team?
I think there's 4 wins at the end of the season, pretty happily. Depending on what the Broncos and Vikings look like, that's 2 maybes. Then the Panthers are cheeks certified. They split the Saints and the Bucks. We're looking at 9 wins, and then they steal another one. I think it's a good line. I'm probably not attacking it, but if you made me, I'd pick the over because it feels weird.
Okay, sounds good. And then the grossest team in this division went 2-15 last season.
Whatever the number is, I'm going under.
Has the same quarterback as last season.
Don't need to read it. Under.
But it's set at 5.5,
Don't
and it's -115 to the over.
Don't need to read it. Under.
Over.
Oh, okay. David's going with the over. I have them at 5 wins. So
David, I will bet you 1 week of promoting each other's articles that the Panthers go under.
Okay, deal. Here's why. So,
yeah.
2 wins last year, not great. They were really unlucky in 1-score games. I don't have the numbers right on top of me, but we all know that over a large enough sample, winning and losing 1-score games isn't a skill. It's luck. You're going to go 500. So even if that balances itself out, you're probably looking at what they should have been was about a 4-win team last year. Bryce Young is still there. Yes, no one's happy about that. But there's a lot more talent over there. The defense isn't that bad. The offense isn't just going to be Bryce Young throwing prayers to Adam Thielen. There's going to be some talent there. And frankly, if Bryce Young is awful again, they have a really good backup in Andy Dalton. Dalton, could probably start for a couple teams. And, Canales didn't draft Young. If it's an absolute disaster, this guy's going to want to prove, hey, it's him, not me. He'll put in Dalton. And with these pieces, I think Dalton is not going to win the Super Bowl by any stretch of the imagination. I think he could put on a decent show, especially in a bad division like this. I think there's a good shot that they get the over. And you need to factor in that, this is Vegas, so Vegas sets their line so that they will make as much money as possible. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, that's done by predicting what they think is going to happen, but you also have to factor in what do people think? What does the outside world think? And everyone thinks the Panthers are cheeks. So there's a lot of people that, like Mike, that say whatever that number is, I'm betting the under.
Fair. However, last place schedule, when we talk about a last place schedule, you're worried about the other teams they're bad, so you're going to do better in comparison. the last place teams in the NFC. You're talking about the Cardinals, who get Kyler Murray back and Marvin Harrison Jr. to uplift their offense. The Bears, who have put together one of the best offseason rebuilds we've seen in a while. And who is the other? The Giants, who, okay, they're bad. I'll give you that. So I just see the draw that they got in their division. They're comfortably the worst team. They play the Eagles. They play the Chiefs. They play the Chargers. Like, do they beat any team better than 500 last year? Probably not. So we're just hoping that they luck their way into a couple of divisional games and maybe beat the Raiders for fun. Yeah, it's a bet, baby. Thanks for coming on.
It's a bet.
All right, David. Well, hey, we appreciate having you on. Can you give one more shout out to anybody that's still...
Before we go, I do want to run off a list of a few teams last year that hit the over on 5.5 wins.
Yes, let's do it. I love
New York
this.
Jets, New York Giants, Tennessee Titans, Minnesota Vikings, with most of those wins coming when Kirk Cousins wasn't playing.
Yep.
Justin Fields, Chicago Bears, Arthur Smith, Atlanta Falcons, Aiden O'Connell's Las Vegas Raiders.
Raiders are good.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. All of those teams have a redeemable quality. The Raiders have a good defense with a good culture. The Giants have Brian Daboll, who does things, I think. The Jets' defense is elite. Like, we talk about... I'll give you. The Giants, gross.
Keep going down the list. Titans.
Titans had a very good run defense and a solid running game, despite their terrible offensive line. So, what is the strength of the Carolina Panthers? Hopefully the offense takes a step forward, but they didn't do anything to bolster their defense. It's absolute cheeks. They traded away. Did they trade away or did Brian Burns walk?
They traded. Yeah, they traded him.
So they got their already bad defense. Frankie Louvu's gone, who Frankie Louvu is the best linebacker that nobody knows. There's not a lot to like about this team.
J.C. Horn could stay healthy, finally.
He could. I could also learn to fly. David, thank you so much for coming on. It's always so easy and fun with you. Again, tell the people where to find you, but that's where they can find me too. So.
So yeah, we are at Last Word on NFL is the Twitter handle, I think. I'm actually not on it very often, so Mike, you can promote that better. But yeah, yep. Last Word on Sports, NFL. Come look at us. We write a lot of things, most about fantasy, league news, all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah, we have beat writers covering every single team. Also, new this week, we have a DFS and Dynasty channel on our fantasy football thing. So thank you, Kovacs, for adding that. Really, if you're looking for the next big place for fantasy football, it is Last Word on Sports. Get your news there before it's too late.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got today. So appreciate everybody. Have a good night.